A race honoring a Sioux Falls mom and supporting families. And experts warn against owning venomous snakes as pets. And there is a no to a new men's prison proposal. This is Inside the Newsroom, and I'm your host, Maddie Paul. Inside the Newsroom, we bring you the trending stories of the KELOLAND area. And my favorite part is we bring in our newsroom staff members to talk about these stories that you see every day on our newscasts and online at KELOLAND.com. So you already got a tease for what you're going to be seeing for the whole show. But to start off, South Dakota's Freedom Caucus is a hard no to a proposed new men's prison. Joining me now to talk about this is our digital reporter, Ray Yost, who really looked into the details that came out from the Freedom Caucus about this opinion. Ray, where did this start? How did we see that the prison or the Freedom Caucus had this opinion about the proposed prison?
Well, they had issued a news release yesterday, so that would have been Wednesday. So we keep track of those, and you know, as you know, the prison has been a topic of discussion and controversy and opinions for at least 2 years.
Right, and with this new opinion coming out, I mean, is this just another piece to the puzzle when we talk about the proposed new site, or is this going to make an impact?
Yeah, that's difficult for me to discern. I think that in the past, the Freedom Caucus has weighed in on things, and it certainly looks at it as if it's had influence and made a difference on different voting. I would say most people would speculate that their opposition to the original $825 million funding package that was rejected in the House earlier in the session in February had an impact, but I can't really discern or determine how much of this will have an impact in the discussions coming up for the September 3rd special session.
Right.
Certainly, they are, a mix of some long-term members, some are newer members, but I think anytime a fellow lawmaker speaks, others pay attention and at least, listen. Whether or not they agree is another thing.
Right. The support has been a couple of different ways, and we're waiting for the special session vote to see if the legislative session will give that 2/3 support. We've done coverage this past week about whether or not that could make that support, as Dan Santella has been reporting, as you have been reporting and keeping an eye on this. But what has the Freedom Caucus been saying in this news release that makes their opinion so strong as a no?
Well, I talked to two members of the Freedom Caucus. I was able to interview two yet on Wednesday. And one of their main concerns is, so we started with this $825 million guaranteed maximum price, and now we've dropped to $650 million after, the task force has met. Their concern is, wow, where do you get this drop? How does this change so quickly, in their opinion? So they're really concerned about, the process, the original plan, and where all of a sudden this cost savings is from. And that's a concern shared by other lawmakers or those concerned about the new men's prison. The other thing that they stressed was it's not just the cost, but also are we addressing the needs of the inmates? I mean, rehabilitative needs, education needs, recidivism is a buzzword. So they're also concerned about programming that is needed at a prison. And that's similar to some other concerns that have been shared. What are we doing about programming as a state? Maybe let's not build the prison, especially now since we're going to need a new DOC secretary. Give them some time to figure things out as far as programming. The other thing I noted that was maybe a little different than what's been said, there's a consensus on the task force and with a lot of lawmakers, at least back when they looked at the original proposal in February in the House. Freedom Caucus members that I spoke to said, we don't think that the existing prison now is unusable. And I think they differentiated that between saying, yes, there's some issues or things that can be improved. We think there's things that need to be fixed, my language. But we don't think the existing prison is unusable. So that's a little bit different than maybe what we've heard from lawmakers, officials speaking about over the past, relatively over the past year and a half, and certainly the past several months.
And as I've been scrolling through your article, Ray, it seems like as you've been pulling pieces from the news release that you got from the Freedom Caucus, you also inserted a lot from Rodin's fact page that he has on his website. Why did you do that? Why did you bring in these other outside pieces that don't relate to the Freedom Caucus news release?
Well, you when you're talking with the Freedom Caucus, the two members of the Freedom Caucus, they're talking about, fear that this could be a $1 billion project. And, there are reasonings for that. At the same time, mentioning that they think the existing prison is usable. So there's also support that came out the same day from the support for the prison project that came out the same day from the South Dakota Police Chiefs Association, from the South Dakota Attorneys Association. So they're talking about the need for a new prison, that rehabilitative programming can be part of this and should be and will be part of this new prison project. They were the freshest opinions that came the same day as the freshest opinion from the Freedom Caucus. So the two are naturally, part of the balanced coverage. They're part of saying, okay, if we're going to do something with the Freedom Caucus, then what is the other side saying? And several of those opinions that I gathered were actually released by the governor's office. So the timing was on both days. So you're working with some of the freshest opinions, information from organizations maybe that we hadn't heard from for a little while.
And you did a lot of work putting that all together. So great job on that. Is there anything else that you'd like viewers to know about this story in particular, or us looking ahead to this special session vote?
Well, just that we're going to continue to cover the topic. We've got a lot of people that have been working on this. You mentioned Dan. You mentioned Bob Mercer's been on this.
Yes.
I've been on this. Other reporters have been brought in to cover different things. So we will continue with that coverage ahead of the September 23rd special session that's planned for right now.
Awesome. Ray, thank you so much for joining me here at the Digital Desk with these details. And everyone stick around. We still have some trending stories to get to. And up next, experts warn against owning venomous snakes as pets. Go figure. We'll have more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. Despite finding the slithery creatures cute and cuddly, snake experts in the area still frown upon owning venomous snake as pets, and not just for legal reasons. To talk more about this is our digital reporter Gracie Terrell, who spoke to some experts about why you should not own venomous snakes. Gracie, I feel like we have to start off with a little bit of context. Your headline to the story is experts warn against owning venomous snakes. So how did the story come to be?
Yeah, so recently a Sioux Falls man was taken to the hospital after he was bit by one of his 3 venomous snakes, and they are illegal here in Sioux Falls to own, so there's kind of some legal battles with that, but then there's also, just the dangers of owning venomous snakes and, not having the proper precautions and things to, help in that situation has kind of stirred all of this, so that's why we reached out to some people to kind of talk about, those dangers and what people should do.
Right, because that story about the Sioux Falls man is still kind of developing, as we learn more about it. And this was just one of the many different angles that we could have taken for a story like this. So for this story, for example, what do you think is so important about finding different angles for one similar story as like a starting point?
Yeah, so there were a lot of different ways that we could have taken this story and that we've, taken it. We talked with the zoo because zoos are one of the places that can own in the city those venomous snakes, but the Great Plains Zoo doesn't just because of all of the precautions that are needed. So that was kind of one angle. We wanted to talk to some experts too, just kind of about, their advice and stuff. And we also talked with the reptile gardens out in Rapid City, since they have, are pretty reputable in terms of, handling those types of animals and the knowledge needed for that.
And you focused more on the reptile gardens for your story, right?
Yeah. I talked with them just kind of about the different, things. One of the big things that they talked about was anti-venom and having that on hand. So depending on where a snake is from, so in the instance with the Sioux Falls man, there was an African snake and then an Eastern diamondback, which is from the North American area. So they would need that anti-venom from those regions, so a South African anti-venom strain and another one depending on which snake he was bitten with. That's kind of information we don't quite have yet. So he kind of talked about, the importance of having that, and, the things that kind of the venom does in your body and how that is, not really good, and the importance of that. And, they have they had said one of the largest stores of anti-venom in the country. So yeah, they use that for, research purposes and stuff. So they know a lot about kind of the process there with those snakes.
One thing that, that's all very interesting, obviously. And that's something I didn't know about the reptile gardens too. And now trigger warning for everyone because the snake video is about to show up. But, you started off your story by calling the slithery creatures cute and cuddly. Is that your words, Gracie?
Those are not my words. That is the Herpetological Society here in Sioux Falls. I spoke with them. And they have a very fond, opinion about reptiles and amphibians and lots of different snakes. There are some, the non-venomous ones that are, they said cute and cuddly, like some ball pythons. So I talked with them too, just kind of about, some advice about, owning snakes in general. They can be kind of escape artists a little bit, so proper places to store them. If you are looking to get a pet snake too, some safe places to go and find them. So, the local pet store, any of the expos, they are running an expo at the end of the month. That will just kind of highlight different animals in a safe environment.
I love that. And, after talking to your interviewees for the story, I'm sure there's probably many parts that didn't make it into your story, but is there anything that you learned that didn't make it in that you think viewers should know?
Oh man, I think some information about the Reptile Expo and the reptile zoo that the Herpetological Society is about to start up. That is some good information just about the different things that they do with the reptiles at the expo. And when that is. And so that kind of wasn't fully part of my story. I touched on it a little bit, but, that's coming up here and more people are kind of looking towards reptiles and amphibians right now. So maybe we'll do a follow up on that and just kind of all of the different things that they have to offer there. And then at the reptile zoo that they're going to be opening up soon.
Maybe they can change your opinion and make you start saying cute and cuddly snakes too, Gracie.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll see. Is there anything else you'd like viewers to know about this story that you've created, Gracie?
I don't think so. I think, just the importance of having that anti-venom around. If you have a venomous snake, depending on the area that you're in South Dakota, it's municipality based. So based on the city or county you're in, there's not a full blanket state law for that. So if you're going to own one of those dangerous pets, make sure you have the proper anti-venom on hand and, the right enclosures and just the training and everything and the knowledge behind it if you're going to be handling some of those dangerous creatures.
Well, lucky for you, Gracie, tonight you're not talking about snakes. You're kind of switching gears. What story are you working on tonight?
So I am working on a story about the Latino Festival here in Sioux Falls being canceled, talking with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, just kind of about that. They cite, increased concerns with ICE and Operation Prairie Thunder and just wanting to, out of abundance of caution, they decided to cancel the festival for their community.
We'll stay tuned for that story. Gracie, thank you so much for being here at the Digital Desk. And everyone stick around because up next, we're looking on an Eye on KELOLAND story that aired last night. And it's about a race that honors a Sioux Falls mom and also supports families. Stay with us. We're going to have another reporter on the show next after the break. And welcome back to Inside the Newsroom. This weekend, people will lace up their shoes to honor a Sioux Falls mom who lost her battle with cancer. But her family also wants the event to leave a lasting impact beyond just honoring her legacy. Our reporter, Carly Phillips, joins me now at the Digital Desk to talk more about this story that she created yesterday. This was an Eye on KELOLAND piece, Carly. So to start off, what makes an Eye on KELOLAND story so different than just any story we see on TV news?
Well, an Eye on KELOLAND is usually a little bit longer than your typical daily news story. So you get to go kind of more in depth and really focus on the backstory of, why you're doing the story and then leading up to what it's really about. So I really got to focus for my story about who this lady was and why her family is remembering her.
Right. And we're talking about Rachel Ortman. And so based off of your interviews and as you were putting this story together, how should we remember Rachel Ortman?
Yeah. So when I was talking with her mom and her husband, they said that family was always number one to her. And so that's really what they want to remember her for most, is how much family meant to her and spending time with her loved ones and being able to support them and other people as well.
And this weekend event will be helping to remember her legacy. So what is that legacy?
Yeah, so this weekend, they're kind of continuing that family-centered, wanting to support in that way by they're going to be giving out legacy gifts to other families, which are monetary gifts that they give just to kind of help other families who have been through something similar that the Ortman family went through. They lost a parent, they lost Rachel, unfortunately, and so they want to be able to continue her legacy by helping other families that have experienced a loss like that as well, too.
And as you were putting this story together, what ways did you find yourself connecting to the story in any aspect? Like, what is something that you think you will take away from this story?
Yeah, I think it's really, really cool that, you can, obviously losing someone in your family is not an easy thing to go through, but the fact that they're turning it into something good and helping other people that really stood out to me. And that was kind of why I thought this would be a good eye on KELOLAND, just looking at how they're turning their heartbreak into something that's able to support other families.
I love that it's active too, like something to just kind of like release all the emotion in your body, that emotion that's been pent up. That's something that I'm looking forward to with this weekend event. Is there anything else that you would like viewers to know about your story, Carly?
Yeah, just the event is this Saturday. It starts at I believe 8 o'clock, around a little bit after 8 o'clock, and then they'll hand out the legacy gifts, and then there's a 5K run that starts at 9:20 for anyone that's willing to come. Otherwise, you can just donate to their cause as well.
And we have a link to that donation site on our website on KELOLAND.com. So if you're interested in donating, you can go ahead, scan that QR code you see on your screen to find this story created by Carly. And stay with us, viewers, because we're going to wrap things up when we come back after the break. That's all the time that we have today for Inside the Newsroom, but I want to just end on a couple of notes. Today is a pretty busy day for newsrooms across the nation. We are remembering 9/11, and we are recognizing the coverage that's still developing today over what happened yesterday in Utah with Charlie Kirk. In fact, our parent company, Nexstar, is providing us with a 30-minute special on the shooting of Charlie Kirk yesterday. It's news coverage from our sister station, KTVX in Utah, and that's going to air tonight only on KELOLAND Plus at 5:30. Again, this is coverage from our sister station, KTVX, about the shooting of Charlie Kirk yesterday, and it will only air here on KELOLAND Plus at 5:30 tonight. So if you're interested in learning more, please stay on KELOLAND Plus on this live stream, and you can watch that special coverage from our sister station. Otherwise, that's it for us here on Inside the Newsroom. Thank you for watching. Remember to watch our newscast tonight, 4, 5, 6, and 10 o'clock. And until next time, have a great day, everyone.